just when you think you're done, right? My soldier needs a sword. Since I can't work on other stuff, we're going to make my soldier sword. Let me show you what I got. This is a model I actually bought because of this piece. I did not want to model all the detail on the inside. For some reason, the guy who modeled it made one bore size for most of the blade and then a different bore size for everything else. So I had to print a couple of sleeves to make it all one size, because I noticed after I printed, and these took like days to print, so I'm not going to just reprint them, especially not for one. Those took a couple hours as opposed to the few days it would take to redo the whole thing. It also didn't have a handle, so I found a cool little handle. It's for Buster Sword, and I figured same universe, right? And I scaled it to the same size as the rest of this. So there's a couple problems with this model. Let me show you a couple of quick things. Subtle differences. Okay. See that? Lines up okay. Does not line up at all. When he plane cut these things, it wasn't at a 90 degree. It's at like a 89, maybe even 89 and a half, but it's enough. It's a noticeable difference. That's super annoying. There was no handle, and these collar pieces, like here, let me show you. Look at that. Huge gap. I don't know why you would go from one bore size to another. So I rescaled a bunch of stuff, reprinted a bunch of stuff. I now have one consistent model. I'm not going to link to this because I paid for this one. And I don't think it's worth it. It saved me some time, but it's still a lot of work that shouldn't have to be done. I was originally going to glue everything and then PLA weld it. I don't think it needs it. I think we're just going to glue, sand, paint, and be done. So it's kind of where we're at. Start gluing some stuff up. I'm gonna glue these two halves together. I ran out of filament and had to use my shiny. Again, just sanded that lightly. Put a little bit of glue down. Let it be. It was okay. Glue wasn't quite sticking, so I tried hot glue just to bulk it up. Nope. And then I decided to cut it. But I cut it without one of the pieces in, so it's just super short. So we're going to start over. I went out, got some air, played with a bonfire for a couple of minutes, kind of reset. Gonna reset the surface here. Gonna reset the work area, and start over. Step one. So we're going to assemble the entire sword, and then we're going to. See, here's the problem. This thing is just super long. Once the whole sword is together, and I've verified that the whole sword is together, we're going to cut it so it's a usable length. Okay, everything together. I want to give myself a couple of inches to play with. So right there is where we need to cut it. I want to make sure everything lines up properly. I'm not missing anything. One thing we don't have on is this cap, and that'll go on at the end. Because I'm gun shy, I'm going to give myself way more than I need. Just to make sure there isn't any glue or anything on it. I'm using an epoxy. Loctite epoxy to be exact. Putting 2 pieces on, just so we have something to level everything off with. And then we are gluing the tip on. If I put glue on the shaft and then slip this over it, it's going to push everything out the end. You want to put the glue in there first and then put the shaft in. This stuff sets in 5 minutes. I am planning on using the entire tube. I like these because they mix together as you know. You squeeze. Give it 5 minutes. All right. Gluing. You know what? Since I started with the epoxy, we're going to keep going with the epoxy. Even if it's stuck to the mat. All right. We're going to put epoxy down. So now I have witness marks on the sides that match up. So I don't have to worry about whether it's, you know, because since it wasn't cut properly. So I'm going to put some epoxy down, and that's where we're at. Gravity's not my friend. So I want everything to line up as best I can, and see you in 5 minutes. So the clamps did work. Neat. All right, on to the next. See you in 5. On to the next. We'll see you in 5. And the last one. And that should be about it for today. Let everything cure overnight. See you in the morning. In case you're wondering, I'm holding everything up. It's just clipped. So yeah. That is neat. It's not together. Blade's together. Handle's not on yet, because this is going to be different colors anyway. It'll be much easier to deal with in multiple pieces. But it looks fantastic. I love this thing. But glue drops, right? Squeeze out. It's bound to happen. It's not lined up 100%. I would have preferred a couple of registration marks in here, you know, but, you know, it is what it is. So, next step is to sand the whole thing. We're going to sand everything. I already started with this, and this is actually starting, it's pretty smooth. I still have to do the flats, but next step is to sand everything. So, let's get to it. I live in the Chicagoland area. It is very warm here right now. Just letting you know. It's like 80 to 90 degrees Frankenstein. It's hot. In my shop, no windows, no circulation. So, it is what it is. I'll cover the whole thing in a light coat of glazing putty. I'm not going to thin it, not going to do anything weird. I'm just going to lightly coat the whole thing, let it hang, and then sand the other pieces while it dries. I've got time. There's no reason to bring acetone into the equation if I don't have to. want to take a moment to talk about glazing putty. It took me a while to get this. I'm not trying to put an even coat of glazing putty across this entire thing. I'm trying to put as little as possible to coat the whole thing. And then I'm going to sand it. And then if I do another coat, I should use even less. The more you sand, the less you should glazing putty, right? Until the point that you're not using it at all. And then we move on to primer. But the point is to use as little as possible and fill in the low spots. It's not an even coat. I'm not trying to cover all my mistakes. I'm trying to make everything flat. So the less glazing putty you use, the better. Handguard and the handle are ready for hand sand. The glazing putty went on very easy. I could move across the entire thing pretty quickly. The blade needs another power sanding. So now I'm gonna hand sand this one, hand sand this one. One more coat on the blade, and then we're on to hand sanding for it. And pretty happy with how it's turning out. So I've hit that point with the blade. I could do like 3 or 4 more coats and sand and coat and sand and coat and sand. But I think I'm gonna hit it with the primer and see how we go. So everything's getting primed now. Luckily, I have extra pieces of lumber that I can put this stuff on to paint it. So we're going to paint everything, just primer, see where we're at from there. Handle and handguard, perfect. The blade, I still have stuff here. Every join, there's something. When you're sanding on your lap, it's not firm enough to hold everything in place. So I think I'm going to set a piece of lumber down. I'm going to put that on top of it. I'm going to sand it smooth on a harder surface, and we'll see where we're at after that. So that's where we're at. Sand, prime, sand, prime, sand, prime. We're gonna do that dance till I'm happy with it. As soon as I'm done with that, we'll pick this back up. Since I have a couple minutes while that dries, we're gonna paint all this gold. It's supposed to be brass, I think, but I don't have brass paint, I have gold paint, so we're gonna paint all this gold. Not perfect, but it is much better. I think it's ready for paint. I'm using the same gray I used for the Beskar there, because I wanted a darker. I don't want a shiny. I may hit the blade part with a bit shinier, but I think I just want the whole thing nice and silvered, and that's what we're gonna do now. I'm happy with this. I like it. I'm gonna tape off the actual edge and hit it with just a light dusting of a metallic finish, just for contrast. And that's where we are right now. I want the lightest bit of weathering in here, just because it adds contrast. Not, I don't want it to look used or abused, or I just want it. I want it kind of blends into one tone. A little bit of brown, lightly watered down, just in the cracks. It's going to make everything stand out so much better. So I'm just using acrylic and a little bit of water. The last thing I want to do is accidentally melt something. I'm using brown. I'm not a big fan of using black washes. There's not much in nature that's actually black, you know? So I feel varying shades of brown is a little more effective. But it's a personal opinion. So I just watered it down a lot. Wipe most of it off. And I'm going to keep doing this 4 or 5 different times until I get the layer I want. I'm very happy with that. It's not perfect. A lot of spots need a little bit of touch up here and there. It's not the end of the world. I think we're at a point now, though, where we need to put everything together. And I'm excited about this. I'm going to use the same epoxy, because it seemed to do a very good job with the blade onto the shaft there. So I figure for putting everything together, it's the right thing to use. I put some epoxy down here, a little on the shaft, slide the whole thing down. There's a gap where the retaining collar is a little lower, so I'm a bit less worried about a squeeze out on this. And then same thing with the handle. The handle turned out perfect. I love that. I'm just going to put a little up here. Oh, that was almost a mistake on my part, because there's this collar that goes on next. Then the handle. And the handle's pretty snug. I'm not going to put a lot of glue up here. Now we're going to leave it for about 10 minutes. Let it do its thing. And we'll see you in a minute. Last bit. I'm going to take it over the bandsaw. Cut it to length. And glue the cap on. And then it's done. I'm going to wrap it in paper towels probably. I don't want to get too close to the bandsaw and have it all scar up or something. There it is. Not too bad. I just glued the cap on, so it's still going to take a little bit to tack up. But, I mean, this thing turned out fantastic. It's not perfect. I should have put registration marks on the inside, little dowels to line everything up perfectly. But it's a cosplay sword. Let's be 100% honest here. I'm gonna wear it around at conventions pretending to be a soldier first class. It doesn't have to look perfect. Yeah. Don't know if it's going on the wall. It's probably going on the wall. This sword's probably going to go away. That way all soldier swords are up there. I'm very happy with it. Looks pretty good. So yeah, it's what I do. I make cool props, costume stuff. It's your thing, you know. Like and subscribe. A couple of videos you might be interested in. Hope I see you next time.